Hi, I'm Mary Sebecki with the Need More Fund in Toledo, Ohio, and also the board of the Ohio Grantmakers Forum. I'm here today with Ken Lloyd, who is President and CEO of Community Solutions Association in Warren, Ohio. Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us here today. So tell me a little bit about Community Solutions, especially going back a little bit, like prior to 2008. What were your operations looking like at that point?
2008, we were going strong. We were in the black every year. I've been there 17 years, and every year that I can recall, we were in the black up until that point. We were allowing ourselves to give raises to employees. We were at a full complement of staff. And we were getting very creative with our programming. And we've always prided ourselves on our ability to do that.
And then 2008 happens. And I'm just curious from both perspectives in terms of your funding sources and your income sources, but also then did you notice after the economic downturn, was there an increase in demand for services? And how did those two dynamics play off each other in terms of your operations?
Well, after 2008, we started to experience the cuts that occurred, probably 33% cut in our funding.
Oh my.
So what we had to do is we did have some layoffs and laid off 37% of our staff at that time. Froze salaries, had to freeze salaries, restructured our benefit packages, and things of that nature.
And how did that impact your ability to deliver services? Again, I'm assuming perhaps you were seeing an increase in demand, but at the same time having to reduce
I don't
your
know that we
operations.
saw an increase in demand from the standpoint of Warren, Youngstown, Mahoning Valley was one of the hardest hit areas, I think. And what we started to see is also a movement of people out of Warren. So I think our demand for services continues to remain high, but it always has been, but I don't know that we noticed that much of an increase. What we did see in our hotline services, because we operate a hotline service as well, information and referral, we saw people coming to us as last point of hearing that there's not resources available. So I think people started to either explore other avenues or were just hearing that there weren't many resources that were available anymore.
Okay. And following 2008, as you're thrust into these situations, can you tell me a little bit about some of the things you learned going through that experience, and also who were some of the people that you were able to turn to for help or guidance during that difficult time?
Well, our mission is to partner with individuals, other organizations in the community, and that has always been when we consolidated back in 2000. We believed in strategic alliances then, and we had gone through a consolidation, and a year later we went to a merger, then we went to an acquisition, so we had some experience with that. We garner a lot of support from other providers in the community. We stay very close with each other, share ideas. My management team is probably one of the most creative group of people I've ever had the good fortune to work with. Board of directors, significantly important in the guidance and direction and the planning that we've done previously to build to this point. So we had a lot of good supports. And we had developed relationships with foundations. We have developed relationships with our other funders, and so it's kind of like you turn to whoever is going to have something that's worthy of usage for you.
You mentioned funders just then. I'm kind of curious, what things in responding to your situations, I mean, what were some of the things that foundations did right, and were there things where perhaps there were missteps on the part of funders in your community?
Well, I think the foundations primarily did some things right by working in unison in partnership with us, and the communication has remained open and direct. I think that was of ultimate importance, and they understood they took the time to understand our business.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much the entire business, but the business that they were investing in.
Mm-hmm.
They took some time, they took some risks, and they continued to also expect outcomes. So I think they did some things right there. I think we both did things right there.
Okay.
I think in some respects, funding, other investors or whatever, became reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
Also had to take care of their own shops,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result of that would constrict in or make it more difficult to interact, and sometimes the interaction would become very cumbersome and annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hard to navigate and
correct.
figure out what was happening. So tell me, here we are now, looking forward. The prospects for the remainder of 2011 and heading into 2012 aren't particularly rosy.
No.
We're also looking at funding cuts from state sources, governmental sources. So how are you preparing as you look forward to the coming next year or 18 months?
Well, we are doing what we've always done. We've had a strong business acumen throughout. I mean, 17 years ago when I first came around, there was an orientation of what I used to call altruistic deficit spending.
Mm-hmm.
And the direct service people would keep themselves separate from the business, the administration and the business. So we taught everyone in the organization about the business and how it worked. I think that has paid off well for us. But also, we went through some significant experiences with strategic alliances.
Mm-hmm.
We learned a great deal from those, where we're not so fearful when terms like consolidation, mergers, partnerships, collaboration, those things, that's become a characteristic of our organization.
Okay.
I think that's what we will continue to do to assist us through the times ahead. I don't know exactly what forms those structures would take, but we have already begun a process of exploring and doing a perceptual analysis, a SWOT analysis, and what I call a PEST analysis, which is PEST analysis being political, economic, social, and technological assessment of what our needs are. And we have movement in each of those areas. We will advocate. We become stronger advocates. We have developed a development plan where we are going to be pursuing more so than ever before private donors and donations. We regularly submit to foundations locally and nationally. We have increased our visibility technologically, and so those are some of the practices that we are implementing. We will continue to work closely with our partners and see what opportunities are available to us. We've already started some. I had some space open in my building, and so we have another provider in that's co-located in there that is providing behavioral health services on the mental health side, which we can make ourselves available to with our co-occurring disorders, and gives us access to a doctor. And we had an addictionologist on board at one time, and we saw a significant decrease when the funding stream ran out. And so there was a decrease in admissions at that time. And so we hope to see that pick back up and become more seamless again. So we are constantly looking for opportunities with other providers.
In other words, you're being very nimble.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you at this point, if there's one thing that you think funders need to hear from the nonprofit sector, what would that be?
Be open, honest, and direct, even if the news is bad. And I think that it's important that they communicate as soon as possible. I think the frustrating thing is when people withhold decisions or are reluctant to share difficult decisions. It's better to know up front so that the provider has an opportunity to respond and position itself. I think that that relationship's of paramount importance.
All right, great. Well, we thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today. It's been very
Thank
helpful
you.
and interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.